there is one body and one Spirit, even as ye are called in one hope of your call, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God, Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all. But unto every one of us is given grace, according to the measure of the gift of Christ. Wherefore he saith, when he ascended up on high, he led captivity captive and gave gifts unto men. So we're going to preach from the 9 to verses 9. Actually, verses 8 through 10. We covered your prayers tonight, more scripture and deeper scripture than I got lined up to be able to actually preach and do justice to. But wherefore he saith, when he ascended up on high, he led captivity captive and gave gifts unto men. Now that he ascended, what is it? What Paul's saying here, before he could ascend, he'd have to first descend. Now that he ascended, what is it? They also descended first into the lower parts of the earth. He was there. Jesus was there. He descended from there to the very lowest parts of the earth. Right? And now he's going to say, in other words, he was so high, he couldn't go higher. Right? So in order to ascend, he had to come down. And that's what Paul was kind of saying in those words. He would say, what is it that he first descended? Into the lowest parts of the earth. And that, if I understand right, is talking about how he is going into the heart of the earth. And we're talking about going down and preaching to the spirits in prison. All the way down there, who were sometimes disobedient in the days of Noah, while the ark was prepared. He went down there. When we look into the scripture, then, I'm trying to say, he couldn't descend no lower. He was up as high as he could be. He humbled himself and descended as low as possible. But he didn't say it. Because God, his Father, took him right back up there. Now listen, it goes on to say, he that descended is the same also that ascended far, or up far above all heavens, that he might fill all things. And then it goes on to say, he gave some apostles, and some prophets, and some evangelists, and some pastors and teachers for the perfecting of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Christ, we all come in the unity of the faith and of the Spirit, or the faith, and of the knowledge of the Son of God, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature and fullness of Jesus Christ. I really want to preach tonight, if I could go through a little bit, verse 8 through 9 and 10, where he said, he led captivity captive and gave gifts unto men. He led captivity captive and gave gifts unto men. And that one verse encompasses a whole lot of doctrine, a whole lot of teaching that one would really have to sit and meditate on a while to really sift out. But what it basically is going to tell us here is the fact. If he led captivity captive, then what? If I am in captivity, I am in bondage, I am bound. And the thing to understand is, my captives, those that have captivated me, those that have got me in bondage, they're my captors. Right? So, I'm the captive, they're the captors. We look back into the story in the Bible, and it teaches us how that there was a time that God had created man, made him in his own image, justice and righteousness and true holiness, and put man in the Garden of Eden. Man being, if I can just kind of lay this foundation just a little bit, one man is what God created, made him one man, made him at one time, put him in one garden, and that man was the entire human race while he was there. One man, nobody else, he was humanity. There is no other humanity. The common ancestor of all men. It was from his side that God would take a rib, and from his substance he would make a woman to be his help. The thing I'm trying to rush on into is to understand that even her, because she was taken from from Adam's side for his suffering. That woman was called Adam. He called their names Adam. And Adam actually meant man. That's what it actually meant. Look it up. When you look into this story and you start seeing how it reads in the book of Genesis, you'll find that man lived in a garden. The man was commanded to rest in the garden. They were commanded to be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. And they were given just a 60 day. And they were there in the garden, did so. The Bible doesn't tell us how long. We do know that there came a particular day whenever there was a serpent in the garden, that serpent was more intelligent or more subtle than any beast of the field. That serpent had conniving ways. That serpent had ways about him that he knew how to persuade men. If you, I'm going to just go ahead and identify the serpent, not try to get too long-winded. I want you to know tonight that the Scripture tells us that that serpent was the devil. It tells us that it was called Lucifer and Satan. That's what it was said. We find that this serpent then that was in that garden, the Bible tells us in one place how as God was talking to Lucifer, the son of the morning, he told him. He told him in one place, Brother Marshall, how that at one time he was perfect in all of his ways from the day that he was created. He talked about how that every precious stone was his covering. He talked about how that the stone is in the cold pass. He talked about how his pipes were prepared in him for living in him. He called him the anointed cherub. That covers the cherub was a race of angels that would kind of guardian type thing. He called him the anointed cherub that covered it. He told him how that he was in Eden in the garden of God. He talked about how he walked up and down in the midst of the storms of fire. He said, "Thou was perfect in all thy ways." The day that I was read, one place, read another prophet, Brother Joe, he says this, he says, "Thou seest of the sun, full of wisdom, perfect in beauty." But when he goes down to the point, we're talking about the devil. This is the devil in the Lord was this kind of man. He looked good. He had it going on. The thing about it was, the Bible goes on to say that he was lifted up because of his brightness. I mean, as glorious as he was and as good as he was, I'm talking about Satan. His creation was created beautiful. He was he was very, very, very wise. Well, perfect. He was pretty good. I mean, you see him with pipes prepared him. I mean, he's very musical and very talented with all kinds of abilities. You saw him covered with every precious stone. I remember Sister showing him. I would like to see what he looked like. I really would like to see a picture, Brother Marshall, of what the devil must have really looked like before his fall. Come on now. But then you see that the Bible said that he was lifted up because of Christ. This is what he said. He said, "I will exalt my throne above the stars of heaven. I will ascend into the heavens and I exalt my throne above the stars." He said, "I will be like the Most High." But God said, "I will cast you, your shall be cast down to hell." Come on now. I mean, you begin to read this and you start seeing Jesus said in other places, his disciples in the same spirit had come back after they had prayed over the sick and after they seen them healed, after they cast out devils, they began to rejoice the same as he did. And they said like this for the joy. They said, "Our Lord, heal the devils, save us through thy name." And then you hear Jesus say, "I beheld Satan as lightning all over him." Come on now. In other words, this story identifies that he was the one that ascended up to heaven. He was the one that tried to be like the Most High. He was the one that tried to exalt his throne. And Jesus saw him like lightning fall from Mount High, trying to lift himself up. I mean, I want you to know today that man from out history, and I'm going to stop right there for a minute, but let me show you that this same one that was in the garden of God, what are we talking about? This serpent